What's going on, guys? We are back with another video. Today, I am going over 10 more VHSs that you need to look out for if you're going to places like flea markets, thrift stores, garage sales, even Facebook Marketplace. You never know when you're going to find a good deal. Now, for this list, it is in no particular order. It's not ranked by prices or anything, but I did try to keep it along the kind of have a theme to it. Now, you can pretty much consider all of these horror movies, and you can probably even say that all of these are cult horror movies just because a lot of them are not well known. And and for me personally, I've never seen any of them, and I don't think I've ever heard of any of them before making this list. And there's one on this list, and I'll point it out when we get to it. I need to watch it before I leave this earth just because of how obscure it is and just how ridiculous the theme of the movie is. So again, I'll point it out when we get to there. But starting things off, we have Blood Games. Now, this movie came out in 1990. Guess you can call this an exploitation horror thriller movie. It was directed by Tanya Rosenberg. And you really have this local baseball game, two teams of girls going at it. I assume so just because of you can see by the cover art, there's nothing but girls on there. So I assume two teams full of girls. The one team ends up winning, the other team loses. The team that loses gets so upset that they start hunting the other team down and murdering them. So you can kind of expect a lot of murder, a lot of violence through this movie. Now, for the listing, for the prices that I'm going to throw up on the screen, I'm going to throw screenshots up from eBay. They are all sold listings. None of them are active, so I wanted to keep it a little bit more accurate as to what they're actually selling for rather than what they're being listed for. So this is probably one of the cheaper ones on this list. You can see here one sold for $40, but then you also have one that sold for $54, but then you also have another one that sold for $87. So I assume in that $40 to $80 range is what this would be expected to sell for on eBay. Now, next up on this list, we have Gore-Met, Zombie Chef from Hell. This movie came out in 1986. We have a low-budget horror/comedy. It's listed as a comedy, so it's directed by Don Swan. And as you could tell, I mean, it's pretty obvious from the title. You have the chef who is killing people, essentially, and since he owns a restaurant, he's taking the body parts, turning them into food, and then selling them and serving them to his unsuspecting customers. So yeah, the movie, pretty much the title gives it away as to what this movie is about. Now, I only found two sold listings on eBay. They're both pretty crazy. You have one here that sold for $240, but then you also have one that's already on the screen, as you can see, but one sold for $350. Absolutely mind-blowing as to some of these prices that these VHSs go for. I didn't know how expensive VHSs were until I started making these types of videos, and oh my God, I hope I could find some of these in a thrift store for like $1 just so I could watch them and then add them to my collection and say, look at this, I got a $350 VHS tape in my collection. I would love to watch this movie just to see what the quality is. I mean, who wouldn't want to watch this type of movie, right? So yeah, that is Gore-Met, Zombie Chef from Hell. Next up, we have Hack-O-Lantern. This movie came out in 1988. It was directed by Jag Mundra. I guess that's how you say his name. Really have everything in this movie that is related to Halloween. You obviously have Halloween, but then you also have that slasher feel, but then you also have satanic cults. So again, a lot of horror/Halloween in this movie. And you have a young man whose grandfather isn't really who he says he is, and the young man comes to find out that his grandfather is a leader of a satanic cult. And obviously, once someone finds out that someone's in a satanic cult, things are not going to go so well for that person. So that's what you should expect from this movie. Now, this is probably one of the most expensive ones on this list. You have one selling for $250. That's not why I'm saying this is expensive, because then you also have another one that sold for $700. Absolutely crazy. And to make things even crazier, another one sold for $750. Could you imagine spending $750 on a low budget 1988 film? I don't know if I could. I just don't know if I could, but somebody did, as you can see. Next up, we have The Prowler. When I saw this movie, the first thing I thought of when seeing the cover art was, if you've ever seen The Boys, I honestly forget the name of the guy. He's in the Seven. I honestly haven't seen, I think I've only seen maybe the first 2 or 3 seasons of The Boys. but he's the, I forget his name, but if you've seen the show, you know exactly who I'm talking about. But again, we have the Prowler here. It came out in 1981, really a slasher film. You have the guy, obviously, on the front who is going around murdering people during a high school or not high school, but during a college graduation celebration. So again, expect a lot of like a Scream type movie, I guess you could say. The movie was directed by Joseph Zito as well. And there was only one listing I could find on eBay, and it was for $300. So another pretty expensive one here. I think all of the ones from here on out are going to be pretty expensive. Yeah. Looking at the list now, the rest of them are pretty expensive. So this is $300 for a VHS. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Next up on this list, we have Alone in the Dark. Came out in 1982. And the story really follows a psychiatrist and his family who find themselves terrorized by patients that escaped from the psychiatric hospital. So again, you kind of expect a lot of terrorizing going on. Obviously, a lot of patients out of a psychiatric hospital. You don't think anything's gonna go well. Actually, it kind of makes me think of back when Pennhurst. I think did they go out of business, or did they just shut down and they just let everybody walk? I think that's the lore to Pennhurst. That kind of made me think of that when I was reading what this movie was about. So if you've ever been to Pennhurst, let me know down below. I've been there a couple of times. Absolutely, it's scary. It's pretty scary. I'm not gonna lie. It's not something that a lot of people could do, especially walking down in those tunnels underground. But again, we're Alone in the Dark. We're talking about Alone in the Dark here. So this is Alone in the Dark. For some of the sold listings on eBay, you have a cheap one here that sold for $50. Had one bid on it, so I'm not entirely sure how accurate this is. Maybe the listing wasn't listed at the best time of day, or the title wasn't the best, or something along the lines. Because then you have one that sold for $100, right? Sounds about right, or sounds fair at least. But then you have one that sold for $375. So I'm not really entirely sure where to put this on the price range, because you have one at $50 and then you have one at $375. So it's kind of a broad range there. If that $50 and $375 are a pretty big difference, if we're being honest, for one VHS. But this was a sealed copy, so I'm not entirely sure how much that played into the price. But I mean, I assume it played something into the price, considering someone spent $375 on this VHS. Next up, we have Bloodbath. Movie came out in 1999. Another low-budget horror movie. I guess you could consider it a B movie, a B-level movie with lower-tier actresses, lower budget, stuff like that. And just, I guess, a vampire horror movie, I guess you could say. You can see from the front, guys biting on the girl's neck, so expect a lot of vampires and a lot of blood in this movie. Now, there was only one listing I could find, another one that just isn't common, another rare one. It actually sold for $335. So if you find this in a thrift store for $1, you need to pick it up. But you got to watch it, though. You can't just pick it up and sell it. You got to watch these movies if you find them, because you're probably not going to find anything like that a lot. Let's be honest here. A lot of these are rare. So next up on this list, we have Lipstick and Blood. This movie came out in 1984. And I guess you can kind of consider this a murder story that involves a lot of violence and passion. As you can see from the front, you have a girl there with a guy over her with a gun up at his face. You can see the girl bleeding a little bit. I actually love the cover art on this. I think this would be a fun one to have on your shelf, just displayed like that. Maybe this will be one that I'll look for. Actually looking at the price point, as you can see here, $500 for this. $500 for a horror slasher VHS. So another rare one that probably doesn't pop up often. I don't know if I could spend $500 on a VHS. I just don't know if I could. Maybe one day, but not right now. There's no way. That's a lot of money for one movie. But yeah, so that's Lipstick and Blood. Next up on this list, this is the movie that I spoke about in the beginning of the video. One that I'm going to watch before I die. Absolutely crazy title. We have Oversexed Rugsuckers from Mars. Wild, wild title. I saw this. I was like, this can't be real. It is indeed real. Came out in 1989. And it is a wild wild movie, as you could tell from the title, but I was looking into what it was really about. You really have another low budget sci-fi comedy. I guess you can consider it horror as well. You got aliens and I don't even know, but what I was reading was you have these aliens. They take a human and then they try to mate the human with a vacuum cleaner, and then they somehow create a vacuum cleaner that comes to life and then just starts going around terrorizing people, I guess. Like, in the back of this box, I don't even know if I could show it on YouTube, because I might get, they might flag it for being inappropriate. But the back of this shows like a vacuum on top of a girl. Looks like he's, like, I don't even know how to explain it. Go on eBay, just look at the back of it. It's wild. It's wild. I need to watch this movie before I die. So if you've ever seen it, let me know down below what you think of it, or if you have it in your collection, where you found it, or how much you picked it up for. I need to know what this movie is all about and how much you liked it. So let me know down below. But moving on, we have Society. Another pretty cool cover art here. You have a girl ripping her face off. So it kind of makes me think it's going to be a movie where everything seems to be good. As you can see from her body, looks perfect, but then she's ripping her face off, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, something along the lines of that, like a dystopian movie where everything seems perfect, but then you start to realize, something ain't right, and then obviously you find out something is definitely not right. So I think that's what this movie is going to be about. Now, for some of the listings on eBay, you have one that sold for $175. Not terrible considering some of the other ones on this list we went over. But then as I'm saying that, you also have one that sold for $423. Again, this is a sealed copy, so I'm not entirely sure how much that played into it. This sold at auction as well, so I assume this is pretty accurate. You have a bunch of people going at it for the sealed version, so $423 for that. And last but not least, we have Troll 2. Came out in 1999, directed by Claudio Fragasso. And I assume this is obviously from the front going to involve a lot of, I guess, troll/creature movies. This is the second one in its installation. The first one, I assume, is going to be a lot more expensive. I didn't really look into it that much. I saw this one, and you'll see why, because of the prices that I'm going to show next. But I assume it's going to be a lot of trolls, a lot of goblins terrorizing people. So I assume also it's another low-budget movie, so keep that in mind with this. Now, for some of the listings on eBay, you have one here that sold for $115, so it's not terrible. $115 isn't the most expensive on this list, but then you have one that sold for $185, and then you have this crazy sale for $403. And again, this is a sealed copy, so I kind of see it, like, now that I'm thinking about it, there's a theme here. The sealed VHSs go for so much more, and I kind of makes sense. I'm kind of putting it two and two together in my head. It's never been watched. VHSs are probably, I assume, are prone to a lot of I know a lot of them have mold problems inside of where the actual film is. So I guess it makes sense why the sealed versions go for so much. But that is the 10 top, not like a top 10 list, but these are 10 VHSs that I found on eBay that you need to look out for in your local flea markets, wherever you're going, and you can find VHSs. Keep a lookout for these. Now, that is the video. Let me know down below if you guys have any of them. Like I mentioned, if you've seen any of these movies, what you think of them. If you have seen them, I'm curious to see what your guys' opinions are. But that is the video. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned till next one, and make sure to keep your shelves worthy.